No one dared to bond without seeing the alien princess's face, except the human. The diplomatic quarters of the Galactic Union Station buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from dozens of species gathered for what many considered the most important bonding ceremony in recent memory. Princess Kira of the Valen Empire had finally reached the age of maturity and was now seeking a life partner among the galaxy's most prestigious candidates. The catch was simple yet terrifying to most suitors. The princess never revealed her face until the moment of bonding, and tradition demanded that her chosen mate accept her without ever seeing her true appearance. Ambassador Tom Rivera adjusted his formal diplomatic uniform and observed the assembled crowd with quiet interest. Unlike the other candidates who paced nervously or huddled in anxious groups, the human representative appeared remarkably calm. He had volunteered for this assignment despite knowing the risks. The Valen were known for their unique biology, and their princesses were said to possess features that could either inspire divine love or paralyzing fear, depending on the observer's species and psychological makeup. The other candidates represented the cream of galactic society. Lord Vex of the Crystalline Dominion stood 7 feet tall with skin that shimmered like cut diamonds. His people were considered among the most beautiful in the galaxy, yet even he seemed troubled by the prospect of bonding sight unseen. The Avarian delegate, Prince Talon, preened his magnificent feathers nervously, while his large golden eyes darted constantly toward the sealed chamber where the princess waited. Even the stoic granite people had sent their finest representative, but Commander Stone's usual composure showed cracks of uncertainty. Tom watched them all with the patient observation skills that had made him one of Earth's most effective diplomats. Humans were still relatively new to the galactic community, and many species considered them primitive or reckless. This ceremony represented a significant opportunity for humanity to prove their worth and establish stronger ties with one of the galaxy's most influential empires. The Valen controlled key trade routes, and their military might was legendary. A successful bonding would secure Earth's position for generations to come. The great doors to the ceremony chamber opened with a deep, resonant tone that seemed to vibrate through the station's hull. High Priestess Vara emerged first, her elaborate robes trailing behind her like liquid starlight. She was ancient even by Valen standards, and her presence commanded immediate respect from all assembled. Her voice carried the weight of centuries when she spoke, addressing the gathered suitors with formal precision. Noble candidates, you have traveled far to seek the hand of our beloved Princess Kira. As tradition demands, she shall remain veiled until the moment of bonding. You must choose whether to proceed based on faith alone. Those who cannot accept this sacred custom may withdraw now with no dishonor. Several candidates shifted uncomfortably, and Tom noticed that a few of the smaller delegation members were already backing toward the exits. The crystalline Lord Shimmer became more agitated, while the Avarian prince's feathers ruffled with increasing anxiety. This was the moment of truth, the first real test of commitment and courage. Furthermore, the High Priestess continued, the princess herself must also choose. She will interview each candidate privately and select those worthy of the final ceremony. Not all who remain will be given the opportunity to bond. The princess's judgment is absolute and final. The chamber fell silent except for the quiet humming of the station's life support systems. Tom felt the weight of dozens of eyes upon him as he stepped forward from the group. His movement seemed to break the spell of uncertainty that had gripped the other candidates. If the human was willing to proceed, perhaps the risks were manageable after all. I accept these conditions on behalf of humanity, Tom announced, his voice clear and steady. We understand that true bonding requires trust and faith beyond mere physical attraction. My people believe that the strength of a union comes from the compatibility of minds and souls, not from appearances alone. High Priestess Vara's expression remained neutral, but Tom thought he detected a flicker of approval in her ancient eyes. One by one, the other candidates began to step forward, as well, each declaring their acceptance of the terms. The crystalline lord's voice rang like struck bells, while the Avarian prince's declaration sounded like a melodic song. Even the granites, skinned Commander Stone, rumbled his agreement, though his massive hands still clenched and unclenched nervously. The interview process, the waiting area outside the princess's private chambers, had been designed to showcase the best of Valen artistry. Walls of polished stone displayed intricate carvings that seemed to shift and change when viewed from different angles. Soft bioluminescent panels provided gentle lighting that somehow managed to be flattering to every species present. Despite the beauty of their surroundings, the candidates remained tense as they waited their turn to meet Princess Kira. Tom found himself studying his competition with professional interest. The Valen had clearly invited representatives from species known for their diplomatic skills, intelligence, or military prowess. Each candidate brought something unique to the table, whether it was technological advancement, cultural richness, or strategic value. The human delegation, by contrast, seemed almost modest in comparison. Earth's contributions to galactic civilization were still relatively limited, though growing rapidly. The first interview lasted nearly an hour, and when Lord Vex emerged, he looked visibly shaken. His crystalline skin had lost much of its usual luster, and his movements seemed stiff and uncertain. He offered no information about his experience to the other candidates, but his demeanor suggested that the encounter had not gone well. The Avarian prince was called next, and his interview was even shorter, lasting only 20 minutes, before he stumbled out with his magnificent feathers drooping noticeably. One by one, the candidates were called, and returned looking various degrees of disturbed or disappointed. Some maintained their composure better than others, but none seemed particularly confident about their chances. Tom began to wonder what exactly was happening in those private meetings. Was the princess herself somehow frightening, or were the questions particularly challenging? Perhaps the very act of interacting with someone whose face remained hidden was more psychologically difficult than expected. When his turn finally came, Tom entered the chamber with the same calm demeanor he had maintained throughout the day. The room was dimly lit with soft shadows that seemed to dance along the walls. Princess Kira sat behind an ornate screen that completely concealed her form while still allowing her voice to carry clearly. Her tone was melodious yet carried an underlying strength that spoke of intelligence and authority. "Ambassador Rivera," she began, "I have studied your species extensively since receiving your application. Humans are known for their adaptability and resilience, but also for their tendency toward violence and unpredictability. What makes you believe that a human could successfully bond with a Valen princess?" Tom considered his answer carefully. This was clearly a test of both his diplomatic skills and his personal character. "Your Highness, I believe that successful bonding requires mutual respect, understanding, and the ability to grow together despite differences. Humans have learned much since joining the galactic community, and we have always been at our best when challenged to rise above our limitations. A union between our species would not be without difficulties, but I believe those challenges would make it both stronger, interesting," the princess replied. "Many of the other candidates have focused on what they could gain from such a union. You speak of mutual growth and challenge. Tell me, Ambassador, what do you know of Valen bonding customs beyond the obvious requirement of accepting a mate unseen?" Tom drew upon his extensive preparation for this mission. "I understand that Valen bonding is considered a sacred merger, not just of individuals but of life forces. The process is said to create a permanent connection between partners that transcends mere emotional attachment. This is why the physical appearance is considered irrelevant compared to the compatibility of souls and minds. I also know that once bonded Valen pairs share certain telepathic abilities, and that the union is considered unbreakable by your people. You have done your research, Princess Kira acknowledged. But knowledge and acceptance are different things. Are you prepared for the reality that bonding with me might fundamentally change who you are as a person? Human psychology is not entirely compatible with Valen mental links. The process could be painful or even dangerous for your species. The question hung in the air between them, and Tom realized that this was perhaps the most crucial moment of the entire interview. His answer would determine not just his own fate, but potentially the future relationship between humanity and the Valen Empire. He chose his words with careful precision, while allowing his genuine feelings to show through. Your Highness, I came here not just as a representative of my species, but as someone genuinely interested in forming a meaningful connection with you. I understand the risks, and I accept them willingly. Humans have always been explorers and pioneers. We have traveled to the stars and adapted to environments that should have been impossible for us. If bonding with you changes who I am then, perhaps that change will make me someone better than I was before. The silence that followed seemed to stretch for an eternity. Tom could hear the soft sound of the princess moving behind her screen, but he could not determine her emotional state from her movements alone. When she finally spoke again, her voice carried a warmth that had not been present before. You may go, Ambassador Rivera. I will announce my decision regarding the final ceremony shortly. The princess's choice. The announcement came at dawn station time, when most of the candidates had spent a sleepless night wondering about their fate. High Priestess Vara summoned all remaining suitors to the main ceremonial hall, where Princess Kira would reveal her choices for the final bonding ceremony. The hall was vast and impressive, with soaring ceilings decorated with the history of the Valen Empire in glowing murals that seemed to move with their own inner light. Tom arrived to find that several candidates had already departed during the night. The Crystalline Lord was nowhere to be seen, and two of the smaller delegations had quietly withdrawn their applications. Those who remained showed various degrees of nervous anticipation, though most tried to maintain diplomatic composure. The Avarian prince had recovered some of his earlier confidence, while Commander Stone stood with his characteristic stoic patience. Princess Kira entered the hall accompanied by a full retinue of Valen nobility and religious officials. She wore elaborate ceremonial robes that completely concealed her form, while still managing to convey an aura of grace and authority. Her movements were fluid and purposeful as she took her place at the center of the raised platform. The assembled crowd fell silent as she prepared to speak. Noble suitors. Her voice carried clearly through the hall without any apparent amplification. I have carefully considered each of your applications and conducted personal interviews to determine compatibility. The decision I announce today will bind not just individuals but entire civilizations in new relationships. I do not make this choice lightly. The tension in the room was palpable as she paused to survey the assembled candidates. Tom maintained his calm exterior, but felt his heart rate increase despite his best efforts. This moment would determine whether months of preparation and diplomatic effort would bear fruit or end in disappointment. After much consideration, I have selected 3 candidates who will be given the opportunity to participate in the final bonding ceremony. These individuals have demonstrated not only diplomatic skill and personal courage, but also the wisdom to understand what true bonding requires. She gestured toward the Avarian prince, who stepped forward with visible relief and renewed confidence. His feathers had regained their lustrous sheen, and he moved with the natural grace of his species. Tom was not surprised by this choice, as the Avarian collective had a long history of successful diplomatic relationships with the Valen Empire. Prince Talon of the Avarian collective has shown remarkable insight into the nature of sacrifice and commitment. His people's artistic traditions and philosophical depth would bring great richness to any union. The second choice was Commander Stone, whose massive frame seemed to relax slightly at the announcement. The Granite people were known for their unwavering loyalty, and their military prowess would certainly be valuable to the Valen Empire. Tom respected the choice, even as he realized that his own chances were becoming more uncertain. Commander Stone of the Granite people has demonstrated the strength of character and unwavering dedication that my people value above all else. His straightforward honesty and protective instincts mark him as a worthy potential partner. The hall fell silent again as everyone waited for the final selection. Tom found himself genuinely uncertain about his chances. Had his responses during the interview been adequate, or had he somehow failed to meet the princess's expectations? The pause seemed to stretch endlessly before Princess Kira finally spoke again. Finally, I have chosen Ambassador Tom Rivera of Earth. His species may be young in galactic terms, but he has shown a rare combination of courage, wisdom, and genuine emotional maturity. Most importantly, he has demonstrated the ability to value connection over conquest and growth over acquisition. Tom felt a surge of pride and relief, but also a deep sense of responsibility. Being chosen was only the beginning of the real challenge. Now he would need to prove that his confidence had been justified, and that humanity was ready for this level of integration with galactic civilization. These 3 candidates will participate in the final ceremony tomorrow at sunset. They will have until then to prepare themselves mentally and spiritually for what is to come. I remind all participants that the bonding process is irreversible and will fundamentally change your existence. Consider your choice carefully. As the formal announcement concluded, Tom found himself approached by both of his fellow finalists. Prince Talon offered congratulations with genuine warmth, while Commander Stone simply nodded with what might have been approval. Despite being competitors, they seemed to understand that they were all embarking on something larger than personal ambition. An interesting choice, Prince Talon commented as they walked together toward the diplomatic quarters. 3 species with very different approaches to relationships and bonding. The princess clearly values diversity of thought and experience. Commander Stone's rumbling voice added, she seeks strength in different forms. Military might, philosophical wisdom and adaptability. Each brings something unique to the table. Tom appreciated their perspective and found himself genuinely curious about what the final ceremony would entail. Do either of you know what we should expect tomorrow? I have studied Valen customs extensively, but much of their bonding ritual remains shrouded in mystery. The ceremony itself is said to be relatively simple, Prince Talon explained. The complexity lies in the psychological and spiritual preparation. We must be ready to accept not just the princess, but whatever form of connection she represents. The bonding process will reveal her true nature and ours simultaneously, and there is no going back, Commander Stone added solemnly. Once the process begins, it continues until completion or until one participant is unable to continue. Those who cannot complete the bonding are said to be forever changed by the experience, even in failure. As they parted ways to prepare for the coming ceremony, Tom reflected on the journey that had brought him to this moment. From his initial assignment as a diplomatic representative to his current status as a potential life partner to an alien princess, the path had been both challenging and rewarding. Tomorrow would determine whether humanity was ready to take its place among the galaxy's most influential civilizations. The final ceremony, the sacred bonding chamber, had been prepared with meticulous attention to ancient Valen traditions. Crystalline formations jutted from the walls at precise angles designed to focus and amplify psychic energy, while bioluminescent organisms provided a soft, otherworldly glow that seemed to pulse in rhythm with some unheard heartbeat. The air itself felt charged with potential, as if the very atoms were waiting in anticipation for what was to come. Tom arrived wearing the simple white robes that tradition demanded of all bonding participants. The fabric was surprisingly comfortable and seemed to adapt to his body temperature automatically. He found Prince Talon and Commander Stone already present, both looking as prepared as possible given the circumstances. The Avarian's feathers had been arranged in formal patterns, while the granite warrior had somehow managed to polish his stone, like skin, to a mirror finish. High Priestess Vara entered first, followed by a procession of Valen officials and spiritual advisors. Their movements were synchronized with mathematical precision as they took their positions around the chamber's perimeter. The whole scene felt like a carefully choreographed dance that had been performed countless times over the centuries. Tom found the ritualistic nature of the proceedings oddly comforting despite the uncertainty that lay ahead. Princess Kira appeared last, moving with fluid grace that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Her ceremonial robes were even more elaborate than before, with intricate patterns that seemed to shift and change as she moved. The veil that concealed her face was made of some material that completely blocked vision while still allowing her voice to carry clearly. She took her position at the center of the chamber, where 3 separate platforms had been prepared for the final candidates. Noble suitors. Her voice carried a weight of ceremony and tradition. You have been chosen to participate in the most sacred of Valen rituals. The bonding process will reveal the true nature of compatibility between souls. Only one of you will complete the ceremony and become my eternal partner. The others will be forever changed by the experience, but will return to their people with new understanding and wisdom. The High Priestess stepped forward carrying an ornate chalice that seemed to contain liquid starlight. Each candidate must drink from the cup of truth. This elixir will open your minds to the full reality of Valen consciousness and prepare you for the bonding process. Once you have consumed it, there is no turning back. The ceremony will continue until completion, or until your mind can no longer withstand the connection. Tom watched as Prince Talon stepped forward, first accepting the chalice with steady hands. The Avarian drank deeply without hesitation, then returned to his platform to await the effects. Commander Stone followed suit, his massive hands dwarfing the delicate cup, as he consumed his portion of the elixir. When Tom's turn came, he found the liquid tasted like nothing he had ever experienced before. It was simultaneously sweet and bitter hot, and cold familiar and utterly alien. The effects began almost immediately. Tom felt his consciousness expanding, as if barriers in his mind were dissolving one by one. He became aware of the thoughts and emotions of everyone in the chamber, though the experience was not overwhelming. Instead, it felt like gaining a new sense that had always been there but dormant. He could sense Prince Talon's excitement and underlying nervousness, while Commander Stone's mind radiated steady determination, mixed with genuine curiosity. The elixir has taken effect, Princess Kira announced, though her voice now seemed to come from multiple directions at once. You can now perceive the world as my people do. This is necessary for the bonding process to succeed. Now I will reveal my true nature to you. Remember that acceptance must come from the heart, not just the mind. What happened next would be burned into Tom's memory forever. Princess Kira began to remove her veil with deliberate slowness, building tension with each layer that fell away. When the final barrier was removed, the 3 candidates saw her face for the first time, and their reactions were immediate and profound. Prince Talon gasped and took a step backward, his feathers immediately dulling to a sickly brown color. His enhanced empathic abilities had apparently made him acutely sensitive to whatever he was perceiving, and the shock was clearly overwhelming his system. Commander Stone remained motionless, but Tom could sense the warrior's mind recoiling from what he was experiencing. The granite people's straightforward nature seemed unable to process the complexity of what they were witnessing. Tom felt his own initial shock, but something in his human nature allowed him to push through the disorientation. Princess Kira's face was indeed alien in ways that defied easy description. Her features seemed to shift and change as if her physical form was not entirely fixed in one configuration. Sometimes she appeared hauntingly beautiful, while other angles revealed aspects that triggered deep primal fears. Her eyes held depths that seemed to contain entire universes, while her expressions cycled through emotions that had no human equivalent. "I am not what your species would consider conventionally attractive," Princess Kira said directly into their minds now that the telepathic connection was established. "My people exist partially in dimensions that your eyes cannot fully perceive. What you see is only a fraction of what I truly am. Most beings find the complete reality of my existence disturbing, impossible to accept." Tom felt the truth of her words, but also sensed something else beneath the surface. The shifting nature of her appearance was not random, but reflected the genuine emotions and thoughts she was experiencing. When she focused on him, her features became more stable, and he could see past the alien aspects to recognize the intelligence, compassion, and loneliness that defined her true character. Prince Tellan was the first to withdraw from the ceremony. His mind simply could not reconcile what he was seeing with his species' need for harmonious beauty. He backed away from his platform with obvious regret, but also visible relief. "I am sorry, Your Highness. I have great respect for you as a person, but I cannot proceed with the bonding. My people's nature makes it impossible for me to accept what I am experiencing." Commander Stone lasted several minutes longer, his warrior's discipline allowing him to endure the psychological pressure, but eventually even his stoic nature reached its limits. "Princess Kira, I honor your courage in revealing your true self. However, I must also withdraw. My people value directness and clarity above all else. The shifting nature of your existence conflicts with fundamental aspects of my psychology." Tom found himself alone with the princess, both physically and telepathically. Through their growing connection, he could sense her disappointment at the other candidate's withdrawal, but also her relief that he remained. The bonding process was beginning to take hold, creating links between their minds that grew stronger with each passing moment. "And what of you, Tom Rivera?" Princess Kira asked. "Can you accept a partner whose very existence challenges your understanding of reality? Are you prepared to bond with someone who may never appear the same way twice?" Tom stepped closer to her platform, allowing the full force of their telepathic connection to wash over him. What he experienced was overwhelming, but not in the way he had expected. Yes, her alien nature was challenging and sometimes disturbing, but beneath it all, he sensed a person who was fundamentally good and desperately lonely. Her unique existence had made it nearly impossible for her to form meaningful connections with others. "Your Highness," he said aloud while also projecting his thoughts directly to her mind, "I see beyond the surface appearances to who you truly are. Your shifting nature reflects the depth and complexity of your thoughts and emotions. I find that beautiful rather than frightening. If you will have me, I would be honored to complete the bonding ceremony." The relief and joy that flooded through their connection was almost overwhelming. Princess Kira's form seemed to stabilize as her emotional state became more centered and focused. For the first time since removing her veil, she appeared consistently beautiful in a way that transcended species boundaries. "Then let us begin," she said as the high priestess approached with the final ceremonial items. The bonding process, the actual bonding ritual, was far more intense than Tom had anticipated despite all his preparation. As Princess Kira stepped down from her platform to join him, the telepathic connection between them deepened exponentially. What had begun as a simple awareness of each other's presence evolved into something approaching a merger of consciousness. Tom could feel her thoughts and emotions as if they were his own, while still maintaining his individual identity. The High Priestess began chanting in the ancient Valen language, while assistants arranged crystalline formations in complex patterns around the bonding pair. The crystals seemed to resonate with the psychic energy being generated, creating harmonious tones that felt both heard and felt rather than simply perceived. Tom found the experience simultaneously grounding and transcendent, as if he was becoming more himself while also becoming part of something greater. Princess Kira took his hands in hers, and the physical contact amplified their connection beyond anything he had experienced before. Through their link, he could sense not just her current thoughts, but glimpses of her memories and experiences. He saw her childhood in the Valen Imperial Palace, where she had been trained from birth for the responsibilities of leadership. He felt her loneliness, as potential suitors consistently rejected her true nature, preferring the fantasy of what they imagined her to be. More importantly, he experienced her genuine excitement at finding someone who could accept her complete reality. The shifting nature of her appearance was not a flaw or curse, but simply the way her species existed. Their consciousness was not entirely bound by three-dimensional space, and this freedom allowed them to perceive and interact with reality in ways that most beings could not comprehend. "Do you understand now?" she asked through their mental connection, "why so many find bonding with my people difficult? We exist partially outside normal space and time. Our thoughts and emotions directly influence our physical appearance. To bond with me is to accept that your partner will never be entirely predictable or completely comprehensible." Tom found that he did understand, and that the knowledge only made him more certain of his choice. "I have always been attracted to mystery and complexity. A partner who could challenge me to grow and see reality from new perspectives is exactly what I have been seeking. The fact that you will never bore me or become completely predictable is a gift, not a burden." The bonding process continued as their minds became increasingly intertwined. Tom began to experience flashes of enhanced perception that allowed him to see beyond the normal spectrum of light and sensation. Colors became more vivid, while sounds carried emotional resonances that had previously been hidden. He could sense the life force of every being in the chamber and feel the flow of energy through the station's various systems. These abilities will fade somewhat once the initial bonding is complete, Princess Kira explained as she guided him through the new sensations. However, you will retain enhanced empathy and the ability to perceive certain aspects of multidimensional reality. More importantly, we will share a permanent connection that distance cannot break. We will always be able to sense each other's well-being and general emotional state. The physical changes were equally profound, though less dramatic than the mental ones. Tom felt his cellular structure subtly altering to accommodate the new neural pathways being formed. His lifespan would be significantly extended to match that of his Valen partner, while his immune system would be enhanced to handle the unique challenges of their mixed biology. The process was not painful, but it was definitely noticeable as his body adapted to its new configuration. High Priestess Vara's chanting reached a crescendo as the crystalline formations around them began to pulse with increasing intensity. The harmonic resonance created by the stones seemed to lock their mental connection into a stable configuration that would persist indefinitely. Tom felt the final barriers between their consciousness dissolve as the bonding reached completion. "It is done," Princess Kira announced both aloud and telepathically. "We are now bonded for life and beyond. My consciousness is part of yours, and yours is part of mine. We remain individuals, but we are also something new together." Tom felt the truth of her words as a deep certainty that transcended mere belief. They were still separate people with their own thoughts and personalities, but they were also connected in ways that made them stronger together than either could be alone. The loneliness that had driven him to volunteer for this mission was completely gone, replaced by a sense of belonging and purpose that he had never experienced before. As the ceremony concluded and the various officials began to disperse, Tom found himself able to see Princess Kira clearly for the first time. Her appearance had stabilized into a form that his mind could easily process, while still retaining the ethereal beauty that marked her as fundamentally different from any human woman. Her eyes held depths that promised a lifetime of discovery and growth, while her smile conveyed genuine happiness and contentment. "So what happens now?" Tom asked as they walked together toward the quarters that would serve as their temporary home, while the political implications of their bonding were worked out. "Now we learn to live as partners," Princess Kira replied. "We will face challenges that neither of our species has experienced before. The merger of human and Valen consciousness is unprecedented, and we will need to discover together what it means for our future, but I am confident that we can handle whatever comes next." Through their bond, Tom could feel her excitement about the unknown future they would face together. The diplomatic marriage that had begun as a political necessity had evolved into something far more meaningful. They had found in each other not just compatible partners, but kindred spirits who could challenge and support each other through whatever challenges lay ahead. A new beginning. The weeks following the bonding ceremony passed in a blur of political meetings, cultural exchanges, and personal discovery. Tom found that his new connection with Princess Kira had fundamentally altered his perspective on both diplomacy and life in general. The enhanced empathy granted by their bond made him far more effective at reading the motivations and concerns of other species, while the expanded perceptual abilities allowed him to notice details that had previously escaped his attention. The immediate political ramifications of their union were profound. The Valen Empire had never before allowed one of their royalty to bond with a human, and the implications rippled through galactic politics in ways that would take years to fully understand. Earth's status in the Galactic Union was immediately elevated as other species sought to curry favor with humanity's new imperial connections. Trade agreements that had been stalled for months were suddenly approved, while previously closed territories became accessible to human exploration and colonization. Tom and Princess Kira worked together to navigate these changes while also learning to live as a bonded pair. Their shared quarters aboard the diplomatic station had been expanded and modified to accommodate both human and Valen needs. The princess had insisted on maintaining many of her people's traditions, while also embracing aspects of human culture that she found interesting or appealing. "I have been studying your species' approach to problem solving," she mentioned during one of their daily planning sessions. "Humans have a remarkable ability to find creative solutions to seemingly impossible challenges. This perspective will be invaluable as we work to bridge the gap between our two civilizations." Tom appreciated her efforts to understand his background, while also sharing aspects of Valen culture that were normally hidden from outsiders. Through their bond, he had gained insight into the complex social structures that governed imperial society, as well as the philosophical principles that guided Valen decision-making. The knowledge was proving invaluable in his expanded role as a cultural liaison and diplomatic advisor. Their personal relationship continued to evolve as they discovered the practical implications of their bonded state. The telepathic connection that had been overwhelming during the ceremony had settled into a comfortable background awareness that enhanced rather than dominated their interactions. Tom could sense his partner's emotional state and general thoughts without feeling that his privacy had been invaded. Similarly, Princess Kira could monitor his well-being and offer support when needed without becoming overly intrusive. The bond adapts to the personalities involved, she explained during one of their evening conversations. Some pairs maintain very close mental connections, while others prefer more independence. Our bond seems to be finding a middle ground that allows for both intimacy and individual space. Tom found this flexibility reassuring, as he had been concerned about losing his sense of individual identity. Instead, he felt more like himself than ever before, while also being part of something larger and more meaningful. The loneliness that had been his constant companion for years was completely gone, replaced by a sense of belonging and purpose that energized his work and personal life. Their first major challenge came when a delegation from the Crystalline Dominion arrived to protest the bonding ceremony. Lord Vex, who had withdrawn from the competition, early claimed that the selection process had been biased in favor of the human candidate. He argued that Princess Kira's choice had been influenced by political considerations rather than genuine compatibility. This union sets a dangerous precedent, Lord Vex declared during the formal hearing. It suggests that newer species can bypass established protocols through sheer audacity rather than proven merit. The Crystalline Dominion has been a loyal ally of the Valen Empire for centuries. We deserve equal consideration in matters of imperial marriage. Tom found himself in the unusual position of defending not just his own worthiness, but humanity's right to participate in galactic politics at the highest levels. The enhanced empathy from his bond allowed him to understand the genuine hurt and frustration behind Lord Vex's formal protests, while also recognizing the political calculations that motivated the complaint. Lord Vex. Tom responded with careful diplomacy. I understand your disappointment, and I respect the long relationship between your people and the Valen Empire. However, the bonding ceremony was conducted according to ancient traditions that prioritize compatibility over political convenience. Princess Kira chose based on her assessment of which candidate could best complete the bonding process. The fact that I happened to be human was secondary to the personal qualities that made the connection possible. Princess Kira supported his defense while also addressing the broader concerns about human integration into galactic society. The bonding process cannot be influenced by external political considerations. It is a merger of souls that either succeeds or fails based on fundamental compatibility. Ambassador Rivera was chosen because his mind and spirit could accept the full reality of what bonding with a Valen princess requires. This had nothing to do with his species' political status and everything to do with his personal character. The hearing continued for several days as various species presented their perspectives on the unprecedented union. Tom found the experience both challenging and educational, as he was forced to defend not just his own choices, but humanity's approach to interstellar relations. The bond with Princess Kira provided invaluable support during the most difficult moments, allowing him to remain calm and focused even under intense scrutiny. The final resolution came when High Priestess Vera testified about the bonding ceremony itself. Her ancient authority carried weight that no political argument could challenge, and her account of the three candidates' reactions to Princess Kira's true nature settled the matter definitively. Only the human candidate was able to complete the bonding process, she stated with finality. The others withdrew not due to any failing on their part, but because their species' psychology was incompatible with the reality of Valen consciousness. This is not a matter of worthiness, but of fundamental compatibility. The bonding ceremony has spoken, and its verdict cannot be challenged. With the political crisis resolved, Tom and Princess Kira were free to focus on their future together. They had proven that their union was based on genuine compatibility rather than political convenience, and had weathered their first major challenge as a bonded pair. The experience had strengthened their relationship while also establishing precedents that would guide future interactions between their species. "I am proud of how we handled that situation," Princess Kira told him as they reviewed the proceedings. "We maintained our dignity while also defending the validity of our bond. More importantly, we demonstrated that Human and Valen can work together effectively even under pressure." Tom felt the same pride along with a deep satisfaction at having successfully navigated such a complex diplomatic situation. The skills he had developed over years of human diplomacy had proven applicable to galactic politics, while his bond with Princess Kira had provided insights and abilities that no amount of training could have supplied. As they prepared for the next phase of their life together, Tom reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. What had begun as a diplomatic assignment had evolved into a genuine love story that transcended species boundaries. They had found in each other not just compatible partners, but true companions who could face whatever challenges the future might bring. The galaxy was vast and full of unknowns, but Tom felt ready for whatever adventures awaited them. With Princess Kira by his side and the strength of their bond supporting them both, he was confident that they could handle anything that came their way. Their union represented not just a personal success, but a new chapter in the relationship between humanity and the wider galactic community. The future stretched ahead of them bright with possibility and rich with the promise of discovery and growth. Together they would explore new worlds, build bridges between civilizations, and perhaps most importantly continue to learn what it meant to be truly bonded partners in the vast tapestry of galactic civilization.